we're going to do today is we are going to take a quick look at our assignment and what's coming up. And then we're going to dive in and we're going to be doing readings so that you don't have to do any reading for next time. Okay, so let's share the screen. And let's take a look at our assignment. So today, of course, is February 9th. We're getting to the point, do 3.1. In other words, what good is this for you? But today, we're going to be reading Getting to the Point aloud together, 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3. And next time, we're going to be doing 2 assignments. We're going to get a day ahead, 4.2 and 4.3. And the reason it's good to get a day ahead is we might have snow. We might have me having to go out and get a vaccine, or me getting sick, or another apocalypse, as so often happens in the last year. So today is a treat because we are going to be doing some readings together. So we can all look at the same screen if you want. Chapter 4 is Persuasion, Getting to Blarney, or Superpowers to Influence People. And you can see that our bus has come up to a stop. People have gotten out, and they're looking at all the crazy things in this town dedicated to persuasion. We have used car salesmen. They make their living by persuasion. There's someone trying to convince you that there's gold at the end of the rainbow and all you need to do is invest. We have a gentleman's club called Ho Ho Ho's. And we see, clearly Santa is doing some sort of strip pole dance on a candy cane. We have Democrats and Republicans trying to convince you to vote for them. We have the internet cafe. Everything on the internet is trying to get you to support it. You got a guy that's down on me luck and he wants you to give him money, Kickstarter or whatever. And you got a church where the preacher is preaching, trying to influence you. And of course, at the top is advertising and the world saying just one bite of the apple. And all of this is going on in this same town of Blarney. So what we're going to do is we're going to assign parts, and I want you to pick a part, especially if you sign the consent form, because I want to be able to show this perhaps to future students or students who are absent today. And we're going to volunteer parts. And there's 5 parts available. So we need a Catherine. It'd be better if it's a lady. Who wants to read Catherine? All you're doing is reading and trying to put a little, actor bit into it. Anybody want to do Catherine? Good. Thank you, Stephanie. And we need a Prue. This is Prue. Anybody want to play Prue? Better if it's a lady. Thank you. Is that Eva? Okay. Everybody is really little on the screen, so I'm having to squint. Sorry. We need a Zach. Zach's a wild and crazy guy that can't focus. Better if a guy does it. Anyone? Come on, let's just volunteer. Let's get going. And we need a Steve. He's an average guy, and we have a real short piece here today, Charlie. And then
I will do one of the guys.
I'm sorry?
I'll do one of the guys. I'll do Zach.
Great. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Stacy.
I can do Steve.
Great. Who said that? Is that Grant?
Yeah.
And then a real short part is just kind of a low class redneck kind of owner of a cafe, Charlie.
I can be Charlie.
Great. And that is Claire. Okay, and then I will play the professor because that's a real stretch for me. Okay, so let's go. Catherine, let's start out.
Our first day on the road, and this is our very first stop.
I'm glad we're stopping. I want some lunch.
What is this place?
This is a diner called Cheapskate Charlie's. I hear they have the best burgers in the state.
Why is the prof going to talk to the owner?
He is trying to talk Cheapskate Charlie into giving everyone on our bus free burgers and drinks.
He can't pull that off. Doesn't he know the guy's name is Cheapskates Charlie?
Zach, I'll bet you a burger that he does it.
You're on. This will be the cheapest, easiest burger I ever had.
You muted, Stephanie. You accidentally muted somehow.
Okay, shh. Let's listen and hear Professor Tibbs and Jedi Mind Trick Master do his magic.
What do you want? I'm a busy guy. I gotta make a living.
The prof is a Jedi?
And the living sure ain't been easy since they put in that interstate to siphon off all the traffic away from this old highway.
Professor Tibbs said 8.
Quiet.
You're telling me we ain't seen no business in here for 3 years since they built that pike. Little guys like me are all drying up and blown away.
I just hate to see the last bits of old-time mom and pop stores disappear. I wish me and my students could do something to help you.
He said help instead of help. That's not how the prof talks.
That is how he talked when he was a kid. He was just reacquiring his earlier dialect so he could relate more to Cheapskate Charlie.
The prof was once a kid?
I don't know how your kids could help.
I know you call yourself Cheapskate Charlie, but as great as that name is, your real problem ain't paying too much for stuff. It's earning too little, right? What you need is a lot more folks buying burgers.
Well, yeah, I guess that's right. So what?
Most of the traffic on the interstate flows east, right?
Yeah, towards the big city.
I just thought of an idea how you can get a lot more folks in here buying burgers.
How?
Our school tour bus is traveling west towards the big traffic flow. Imagine that we put up a canvas poster on the bus declaring, "We ate free burgers at Cheapskate Charlie's." Well, that should grab them. All your other roadside billboards will net them in once we hook them.
What does he mean by net him in and hook him?
It is about fishing, Zach. I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to get free burgers off of me.
Of course I am. And so what? The problem is that being a cheapskate ain't enough to keep this place going. You've got to try a Hail Mary.
Hail Mary? Isn't that a religion thing? Why is Prof talking about religion-y stuff?
Football, Zach. You know what that is as well as I do.
Oh yeah, the other Hail Mary.
We're going west for hundreds of miles, driving for days, and every car and truck coming this direction will see this poster on our bus. They'll think they can get free burgers like we did. But the poster won't say they can get free burgers once they're in here. They'll smell your cooking and you got them by the wallet. Once you got them, they'll come back when they pass by this way again, and you know it. That's how good your burgers are. The scraps you give us will be the gift that keeps on giving back to you. You have a decent chance of saving this place that you've worked so hard for. You have a chance of keeping your dream alive, and it's striking a blow for all the mom and pop shops out there being run over by the bigwigs. But we won't be your mobile billboard unless you actually give us our lunch. That would be wrong. And even though you pretend to be a cheapskate, you're really a good guy at heart. But we've got to move on down the road. It's time for you to take us up on our offer right now. If not, I guess we'll have to go down the road and see if we can help out Discount Danny's dirty diner.
I wouldn't want your kids going into that dive. They would get too slim.
Well, it ain't no cheapskate Charlie's, but nothing ever could be, could it?
You're telling me. All right, Mr. Teacher, you win. Tell your kids to go belly up to the counter and I'll give them their orders.
My students and I will work on the poster and show it to you before we go.
I can't believe it. You got free burgers for nothing. Hey, Prof, how did you do that?
Told you so, Jedi mind tricks.
Just a little Blarney, Zach.
Blarney the dinosaur?
No, Zach. Blarney is a castle in Ireland famous for the Blarney Stone, also known as the Stone of Eloquence. Tradition has it that anyone who kisses the stone will always be graced with the powers of persuasion.
Like Jedi mind tricks.
And the next town we're stopping at on our bus tour is also called Blarney, a town named after the Irish castle. This town specializes in the art of persuasion. As our bus pulls off the interstate, you're going to see out the window a rather odd arrangement of people who are all experts in getting their way with words. Preachers, advertisement designers, politicians, used car salesmen, editorial writers, carnival barkers, poets, phone marketers, inspirational speakers, spammers, and teenagers. But grab your food and let's go see for ourselves.
Yeah, Zach, grab your burger and then give it to me. I won the bet.
You interpreted our bet literally?
Now we're 4.2, the definition of persuasion and the question of morality. You remember the very first day I used the image of the metaphor of magic rings beaming emotions on people. And the question I asked that day is it moral? And if so, when? And they're going to tackle that issue. Go ahead, Catherine. Oh, Stephanie, I think you're muted again.
Oh my goodness. Okay. It's 3 p.m. and we're finally pulling into a town on our itinerary.
What's the deal with these people?
These are the people I told you about, preachers, advertisement designers, and so on, all here for the International Blarney Convention.
Huh?
These people are here to learn more about how to influence people. They all make a living by persuasion. Persuasion is a part of rhetoric.
I remember that rhetoric somehow doesn't involve Rhett or Rick, but what is it again?
Rhetoric is the art of using words to influence people. It can be divided into 2 types. 1, persuasion, the art of moving people to action by impacting their emotions. And 2, argumentation, the art of changing people's minds on an issue by using fair, balanced, and well-reasoned arguments.
Can everyone speak in boldface but me?
But while we're in Blarney, we'll be focusing upon persuasion. Let me say that again. While we are here, we are not trying to change anyone's mind through fair, reasonable, and logical argumentation. We're merely trying to control people by words to get them to act, whether that means to give time and our money to a cause, vote for a candidate, or purchase a product. Persuasion is the form of rhetoric that does not necessarily play by the rules. It's the con artist of rhetoric. It can make assertions without evidence, and if it does provide evidence, it can be riddled with weak logic. All persuasion wants to do is win. That is, to impact the reader's emotions and control their actions, like a puppeteer controls a puppet.
Jedi mind tricks.
That doesn't sound moral to me.
That sounds cool, like getting free burgers. I never got to eat.
Good points. Let's use an analogy, which is really a form of application. Imagine I hand each of you a special ring. After experimenting with it for a while, you discovered that the ring is imbued with superpowers.
Sweet.
Whenever you point the ring in a person's direction and touch the gem in the center of the ring, you can control that person's emotions. You find that if you ask a friend to cook you lunch, you can push the button and inflict the guilt emotion, and your friend will make you some tacos. If you ask that special person out on a date, the love emotion ensures he or she will go out with you for a night on the town and even pay for both of you. This magic ring is really the power of persuasion.
Where can you get these rings?
So here is my question. Is it right to use these rings on people?
Are you kidding? All the burgers and chicks you want?
No name calling, Zach. Women are not chicks.
Sorry, Catherine.
Don't ruffle Catherine's feathers, Zach. We need the eggs.
That joke doesn't even make sense.
Sorry.
Manipulating people still seems immoral to me.
The word manipulation has a negative connotation. Let's use the word influence instead, because you can influence a person for a good cause, for good reasons, or you can influence a person for a bad cause and bad reasons. Prue, can you think of a situation where a person influenced people for a good cause and for good reasons?
Preacher could use persuasion to help save his soul. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. used his influence to turn back the tide of racism. John F. Kennedy used his influence to cast a vision so the nation could join together in the great task of going to the moon.
Ronald Reagan used persuasion to help win the Cold War.
But what about a preacher who is evil like Jim Jones using his influence to get people to drink poisoned Kool-Aid? Or a politician like Hitler who promotes genocide and world war? Do we want them to have a magic ring?
So should we destroy all the magic rings?
Since we are talking about the art of persuasion, it is impossible to destroy the magic rings anyways, because people influence people with words every day. You either learn how to use the ring, or you will unwittingly be controlled by people who know how to use the ring.
I think what we are saying is that when it comes to influence or Jedi mind tricks, everyone in the world already has a magic ring on their fingers, but a lot of people don't know it or don't know how to use it. But some people have learned how to use their rings on other people, especially those who don't even know that they're wearing magic rings. Since we can't stop bad people from using their rings to influence people to do bad things, we can all learn how the rings work so we can use them for our good, and so we cannot be influenced by those who are using them for bad.
That's the second reason to study the art of persuasion. The first is to know how to use the rings. But the second is to be able to recognize when the rings are being used on us.
Can we finally deal with the fact that the prof is speaking in boldface print?
That's just a voice technique that teachers and professors use to let students know that what is important, so important that it might come up on a test.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Imagination games are fine, but I always think about what is practical and real. If there were such magic rings, how would they work? They wouldn't really be magic. How would they get their powers?
Powers is exactly the right word, Prudence, because the things that make up strong rhetoric, whether persuasion or argumentation, can be spelled out in the acronym POWERS. The powers is really a triangle within a triangle. The big triangle is what I call the triangle of writing. There are three obvious components to any writing project. They are the writer, the reader, and the subject. By the way, I would say that freshmen, when they write, the only thing freshmen write about or think about when they're writing is subject. They almost never think about the reader. And they never, ever think about the writer. Because if I were to say, who's the writer? Most freshmen will say, well, it's me. I'm writing it. But the question we're going to ask is, who is me? Go ahead, Zach.
we talked about these ideas a little bit in earlier chapters.
What do you mean by chapters? Uh-oh, Zach is looking straight up at the ceiling again.
Rada, he's pretending that we're all characters in a college textbook.
Reader, don't listen to any of their negativity.
The writer, the reader, and the subject comprise the W, R, and S of the acronym POWERS. Let's define these terms. Obviously, the writer is the person doing the writing or speaking, and the reader is the person doing the reading or listening. The subject is also self-explanatory. It's the topic or focal point for the discussion. For a preacher, the subject might be sin. For a politician, the subject might be healthcare. The three elements of the big triangle of writing, writer, reader, and subject, all react with one another, producing a smaller inner triangle.
Huh?
So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump over to this PowerPoint. So the triangle of writing again is the writer, the reader, and the subject. and they make up the W, R, and S of the powers. But let's look at each of these as they're examining the other one. When the writer tries to connect with the writer needs to adopt a persona to connect with the reader. So for example, Professor Tibbs, who has a PhD in English, is very affluent, very upper class, at least in his educational level. But the reader in this case, Cheapskate Charlie, was really lower class. And so what he did is he adopted the language that he grew up with in his lower class life when he was young, so that Cheapskate Charlie wouldn't see him as other, wouldn't see him as someone hoity-toity, someone he couldn't relate to. So he adopted a persona, and he said things like hep and things like, you know, he made references to football, he made references to fishing that he thought that this guy would connect with. So the writer has to adopt a persona. What about the reader's approach, or what about the writer's approach to the subject? The writer approaches the subject with certain expectations. We'll talk about that in a minute. What about the reader's approach to the subject? The reader approaches the subject with a context. In other words, there's some occasion going on. So you put that together, it's P-O-W-E-R-S, powers. Okay, let's get back to our text. So here we have the ring beaming, and it is creating this triangle within a triangle. Here's the writer, the reader, the subject, persona, expectations, and occasion. To explain, look at the word expectations, the E in powers, between the writer and the subject. The writer approaches the subject with certain expectations, such as a purpose or goal. In the case of persuasion, the writer's expectation is for the reader to act immediately to further the cause of the subject.
Brilliant.
Next, look at the word occasion, the O in powers. Between the reader and the subject, the reader approaches the subject upon a certain occasion or particular circumstance in which the piece of rhetoric is being written and or delivered. For the congregation listening to a sermon, they might be keenly aware this day is their pastor's 20th anniversary as their spiritual mentor. For the readers of the Wall Street Journal, the healthcare article they're reading has been written by a U.S. senator currently running for president.
I am loving this high concept.
Finally, look at the word persona, the P in powers, between the writer and the reader. The persona is the role the writer is playing as he or she is presenting himself or herself to the reader.
I don't understand the difference between the writer and the persona.
Persona is the Latin word for mask. It suggests that each of us puts on different masks for different audiences upon different occasions. Oh, Stacy, you're muted.
I don't even own a mask.
Maybe you should buy one, please, any kind of mask, and think about wearing it all the time.
That would be cool. Hey, wait a minute. I think you just dissed me.
Catherine.
Sorry, Zach.
I don't think Professor Tibbs is talking about a literal mask. I think he means roles that we all play.
I don't play roles. I'm always me.
The concept of persona shouldn't be thought of as a negative thing. It's just that we all relate to different people in different ways using different language. Imagine that each of us is like a gem, like a diamond. Now, a diamond is just one thing, like Prue is one human being. But when a diamond is being presented to someone, that person looks at the diamond through one facet of the diamond. In that moment, the facet might be triangle shaped or diamond shaped. That facet might be clear, or the light may hit it in such a way that it might shine any color of the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, or indigo.
Roy G. Biv.
So even though it is always a diamond and never anything else, it can present itself to different viewers in different ways. Oh, sorry, I'm reading Catherine's. Sorry, Stephanie, you weren't muted. Go ahead.
That's okay. As the green triangle, a red diamond, and so on.
I was channeling you. Exactly. So a writer's persona is like the facet of a diamond. The writer has to decide which facet or aspect of himself or herself to present to the reader for the greatest effect.
Catherine likes the lofty, high-minded stuff, but I like what I can practically apply to everyday life. Can someone please give me an example, or as a professor might call it, an application?
How about an English professor speaking to a grubby cheapskate owner of a diner and using the words ain't and help, or using fishing and football metaphors because he notices the fishing and football trophies on the back wall?
Very observant, Catherine.
Oh, I see.
Well, let's come up with some new examples. Let's have Steve do it.
Huh? Me?
Steve, off the top of your head, pretend you're writing an email to a friend about how bad the dorm cafeteria food is. Go.
Okay. Dear Zach, how's it going, bro? The pizza they served in the dorm last night sucked. It was as flavorful as cardboard, and the pepperonis were so few that it looked like someone just sneezed them randomly on top of the crust. Can't wait to get a care package from home so I can eat real food. See you, Steve.
Steve just showed Zach one persona or diamond facet. Now let's see another. Steve, next write on the same subject to your father complaining about the food.
Dear Dad, how are you and Mom? Everything is fine here at the university. I do have one minor complaint though. I miss Mom's cooking. The dorm food here is okay, but sometimes I just don't want to eat it. I had only 2 bites of the pizza last night, which was tasteless and gross. I sure wouldn't complain if you and Mom sent me another care package. I'm just saying, love, Steve.
Now, Steve, write a letter on the same subject to your pastor.
Oh, dear Reverend Clarkson, I know you're concerned about me being able to adjust to university life. I just wanted you to know I'm fine. University life is great. I do have one minor quibble, however. The food in the dorm is substandard. Some days it is fine, but on other days I can't bring myself to eat any of it. I pay quite a bit of money each month for dining privileges, but I couldn't eat the pizza last night. I had to go down the street and pay to eat out at a fast food burger restaurant. Basically, I paid twice just to eat one meal. I wouldn't bother mentioning this to you, but I know you are close to many of the regents. If you could drop a mention of this situation, I would deeply appreciate it. Thanks for your ministry and all you do for so many people. Sincerely, Steve.
Do you see any differences in the 3 personas or diamond facets that Steve showed his reader?
Yes, the first letter to Zach was really casual in tone, but then the letters got more and more formal.
What else? Anyone?
He used different strategies for each reader. For Zach, he mentioned sneezing pepperoni on the pizza, but he didn't mention it later.
Sneezing pepperonis. Funny.
Even the closing phrase was different. It went from see ya to love to sincerely.
So do you understand, Steve, how we all naturally present different personas or diamond facets depending upon the reader?
Yes, I get it now. I'm not being fake, and I'm still me, even if I naturally show different facets of myself to different people.
Sneezing pepperonis. Funny and gross. Still, since Catherine ate my burger, it makes me kind of hungry.
So our first assignment for next time is exercise 4.2, putting on a persona. To practice putting on a persona as a strategy for persuasion, pick 2 of the following scenarios and write a brief paragraph persuading your peer to do what does not come naturally. So you're going to write 2 paragraphs. Scenario 1, you're trying to convince a redneck named Calamity Joe to go to a yoga class. Put on the persona of a redneck to convince him. Scenario 2, you're trying to convince a prissy cheerleader named Tiffany to take on a job at a pig farm. Put on the persona of prissy cheerleader to convince her. Scenario 3, you're trying to persuade a hippie named Moonspice to go hunting. Put on the persona of a hippie to convince her. Scenario 4, you're trying to convince a hypochondriac named Rupert to volunteer at a free clinic. around all those sick people. Put on the persona of hypochondriac to convince him. You're trying to convince a nun named Sister Martha to ride a mechanical bull in a bar. Put on the persona of a nun to convince her. So you pick two of these and you write a little paragraph where you are reaching out to them by putting on a persona like them and trying to convince them to do these things. So that's one of two assignments for next time. Questions or comments about that? Okay. We may have a little time at the end of the hour for you guys to get in groups and kind of brainstorm on which one of these you want to do and which two you want to do and what strategies you might use. Okay, let's keep reading. 4.3, pathos, logos, and ethos.
Sorry, Professor, I understand the big concept of how thinking through the powers can help us influence people, but that is so general. You said if we use the magic rings, we can impact people's emotions. I know there's no such thing as a magic ring, so my question is this: how do we push people's emotional buttons in the real world?
The Greek philosopher Aristotle recognized long ago that there are three and only three techniques for persuasion. We call these techniques appeals. These appeals are: 1, pathos, a direct appeal to the reader's emotions. So when you think pathos, think emotions. It can be any emotion: fear, hatred, sexual arousal, pity, humor, love, whatever. Number 2, ethos. This is an appeal to the reader's emotions through the use of some authority. So when you think of ethos, think of authority. So it's a person, a group, or a text. So you can say the Bible says, you can say the Surgeon General says, you can say the American Medical Association says, you can say PETA says, you can say whatever, but you're appealing to this authority in order to get them to feel emotions so you can get them to act. Logos, an appeal to the reader's emotions through the use of evidence or data. So a fact, a figure, a statistic, a piece of logic, so on. So when you think, I'm sorry. No, I'll let you go in just a second. So logos, think of logic, think of statistics, data. But remember that it's easy when you use pathos to directly appeal to readers' emotions, because it's all it is. But if you use ethos or logos, be sure that you're using that ethos, that authority. Be sure you're using that logos, that data, in order to affect the reader's emotions. Otherwise, it won't be as effective. Okay, go ahead, Zach.
Pathos, ethos, and logos. Aren't they the Marx brothers?
Funny.
Dude, I wasn't trying to be funny. I think that is what the Marx brothers are called.
Couldn't there be more than pathos, logos, and ethos? Couldn't there be others?
Can anyone think of another one?
How about hunger?
That is really an appeal to pathos, since hunger is in effect a kind of an emotion.
No, I mean I'm hungry. You ate my burger, Catherine.
I can't think of any persuasion appeals other than pathos, ethos, and logos right now, but I'm not willing to concede there can't be others besides these three.
Are you daring to question the great Aristotle, one of the most brilliant minds in world history?
Yes.
Good for you, Prue. I love the way you question everyone and everything. Questioning even Aristotle is a great example of good critical thinking. Aristotle actually did have a fourth appeal. It is called kairos. It is an appeal to time, meaning now is the time to act. But since kairos, or an appeal to act now, is used in conjunction with the other three appeals, we'll focus mainly upon the appeals of pathos, logos, and ethos.
Prue's doing advanced level critical thinking, and I'm struggling at basic level trying to remember things. I don't think I have got these 3 appeals in my head yet.
Professor Tibbs, can you give us application by use of some examples so we can absorb these concepts better?
By we, Catherine means me. Catherine is great at absorbing high concepts.
Actually, it's better if you students give me the examples. We came here to Blarney so you can experience the 3 kinds of appeals for yourselves. Your assignment is to go into the town for a couple of hours and discover as many examples of each of the 3 persuasion appeals as you can. Also, I want you to try using these 3 appeals on each other and the people around you. Explore what works and what does not. Then we will all meet back here at the bus and share what we found. So, Tibbs' summary of persuasion appeals, pathos, ethos, and logos. Persuasion is the art of moving people to action by impacting their emotions. This is accomplished through 3 types of appeals. Pathos, a direct appeal to readers' emotions, fear, hatred, sexual arousal, pity, etc. Many times when a writer uses pathos, he or she pushes the reader's emotions buttons and then associates the product with the emotion the reader feels. For example, don't you want your children to live? Then buy Macalick brand tires. So this is an appeal to fear associated with the product which quells the fear. Now, logically, will Macalick brand tires save your children's lives more than other tires? We have no idea. It doesn't matter. All they're doing is pushing an emotion button, Macalick brand tires. Fear, Macalick brand tires. The snobby rich upper class doesn't want you to vote for Joe Jackson. An appeal to hatred so that the reader will react in anger by voting for the candidate. Well, I don't want them snobby rich upper class people to tell me who in the hell to vote for. I'm going to vote for Joe Jackson just to stick it to him. Right? Get lucky with Fortune cologne. An appeal to sexual arousal associated with the product. Now, is there anything about Fortune cologne that's an actual aphrodisiac? No. It's just saying, feel sex, Fortune cologne. Get horny, Fortune cologne. So it's just associating the product. Ethos, an appeal to the reader's emotions through the use of some authority, whether a person, a group, or a text. This so-called authority may or may not be a real authority. If the Surgeon General says smoking will likely kill you, that's a real medical authority. If Beyonce says smoking will kill you, she is not really a medical authority, but her message will probably influence a lot more people than the Surgeon General would. Examples. Would Jesus drive an SUV? Is it right for you to own one? An appeal to shame by the authority of Jesus to get the reader to act by not owning an SUV. Restricting access to pornography is a violation of the First Amendment. Any true blue American patriot will vote yes on state question 666. An appeal to patriotism by the authority of the Bill of Rights to get the reader to act by voting. KD says Katydid shoes are the coolest. An appeal to popularity by the authority of NBA basketball star Kevin Durant to get the reader to act by purchasing shoes. Then there's logos. This is an appeal to the reader's emotions through the use of data, evidence, a fact, a figure, a statistic, a piece of logic. Logos is often a kind of false argumentation that looks and sounds a lot like good argumentation, but the evidence it presents does not have to be logical or fair. So, for example, 70% of the women between ages 17 and 25 are Democrats. Isn't it time you join your sisters in the party of unity and freedom? So it's an appeal to unity and feminism by a piece of data, 70%. to get the reader to act by registering as a Democrat. B, the last time citizens of Springfield tried to fund trolley cars was in 1916. Why turn the political clock back all the way to the lawless days of the Old West? Haven't we come farther than that? Sign the petition to oppose a trolley. An appeal to fear by a piece of data, 1916. To get the reader to act by signing a petition. 6 out of 7 dental professionals recommend sugarless gum for their patients who chew gum. So to be good to your teeth by buying plaque sugarless gum. An appeal to health by piece of data, 6 out of 7, to get the reader to act by buying gum. Notice that the evidence is logically flawed. Was the survey conducted by a reputable polling organization or by the plaque company? Were there only 6 dentists surveyed or 6 million? Who are the dental professionals? Were they board certified? Were they bribed by the plaque company? Did they really recommend plaque specifically or just sugarless gum in general? Did their recommendation of sugarless gum for their patients who chew gum really suggest that chewing gum is good for your teeth? So it doesn't have to actually be logical. It just has to run by you and get you to do something. Make sense? Effective strategies for persuasion. In the last example, there are really 2 different kinds of appeal. The 6 out of 7 part of the statement is logos, but the dental professionals part of the statement is ethos. Since a group of dental professionals like the American Dental Association is a kind of authority when it comes to dental health, it's often very effective to mix 2 or even 3 kinds of appeal in the same sentence or paragraph. Throughout an entire persuasion essay, it's best to mix in all 3 types of appeals and to appeal to many different types of emotions. Since appealing to the same 2 or 3 emotions over and over can turn the reader off and make the paper seem preachy and one-dimensional. How many of you late at night have seen the commercial about the poor dogs looking out of cages and they're underfed and they look beaten and there's gentle female music playing, right? That works for 20 seconds, but as the commercial goes on, you burn out and you kind of start laughing at it. Make sense? Because it's just one appeal. Guilt, shame, get a dog, shame, right? Or sadness. Although pathos is a direct appeal to emotions, it's important to remember that ethos and logos are ineffective unless they also appeal to the emotions. You've got to remember using ethos and logos to make that an emotional appeal. Many times the writer will forget this. Trotting out an authority or piece of evidence by itself will not move the reader emotionally to act unless his or her emotions are moved as well. So the other assignment you have for next time is exercise 4.3. The good news is you don't have any readings to do because we did them today. So look through magazines until you find 3 different ads. One which uses pathos, one that's ethos, and one that's logos. Either cut the ads out of the magazine, photocopy them, or take a picture of them to turn in and answer the following questions about each one. Then place a dot on the triangle below to indicate where this ad falls on the pathos, ethos, logos continuum. For example, if the ad only appeals to pathos, your dot would be at the top of the triangle. So look here. You're going to have an advertisement that you believe is pathos. You're going to take a picture of it or have it there. You're going to answer these questions, pathos 1, A, B, C, D, answering the questions. Then on this triangle, you're going to put a dot somewhere. Then you're going to do the same thing for an ad for ethos. And you're going to do the same thing for an ad for pathos. Now, in addition to that, you're going to make sure that after uploading this to D2L on the appropriate site, that you make sure that your fellow classmates also can look at these ads. not the data, but the ads. Because in class, we're going to show ads to each other and say, what is this? Pathos, logos, ethos, or a combination of which in what order? And in groups, we're going to analyze them together and get better and better at this. So, for example, dang it. If you go on any Google site or any kind of site where you type in things, and you type in pathos, ethos, logos, ads, you're going to find all kinds of websites where they give you example of these. I'm not making up pathos, logos, and ethos. Aristotle did that. But every advertising agency uses these, specifically those things. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you an ad, and I'm going to have us be quiet. And then I'm going to say, what do you think this is? And you got to guess, is it pathos, logos, or ethos? Later on, we'll see that there's combinations of them. So let's take a look. So I got this off of one of those advertising websites. Ethos is authority. Logos is some sort of reason or logic. Pathos is emotion, right? Take a look at this ad. Let's be quiet for a second, and then I'll say, what do you think it is? So let's just be quiet and look at it. Is this pathos, logos, or ethos, do you think?
Pathos.
Pathos. Excellent.
Pathos.
What emotion is appealed to?
Sadness, like regret, maybe.
Sadness, guilt, horror. You just run over this child's face with your car and you just feel horror, right? And so it takes that horror and it tries to get you to act. Watch out for pedestrians. Make sense? Take a silent moment. Look this over. Sorry, it's a little blurry. I've blown it up too much. Okay, what do you think this is?
Logos.
Logos. Why? What does it appeal to?
Like data.
Logic. It
Yeah.
has a statistic.
Good. 100% removes 100% more plaque. Perfect. This one, take a moment. What do you think this one is? Ethos. Notice as we analyze it, she is wearing red. Coke is in red. So we're emotionally associating her ethos with Coke, and her name is in red. So this is saying Taylor Swift likes Diet Coke. If you don't, you're a loser. Drink Diet Coke, you could be Taylor Swift. Drink Diet Coke, you could be sitting across from Taylor Swift, maybe giving her a kiss, right? So ethos, perfect. What do you think?
Is it pathos again?
Pathos. What emotion?
Sadness again?
Sadness.
Good. Horror, sadness. What do you think?
Logos.
Logos. Exactly right. The 100 calories could not be more attention grabbing, right? What do you think this one is?
Pathos?
Ethos? Where's the ethos?
Pathos.
Okay, pathos. It's both. I would say it's more pathos than ethos, but it is a little bit ethos. So standing up for yourself is strong. Standing up for those around you is army strong. So the emotion is you'll get to be strong. The emotion is you will make your country strong, patriotism. But you can't help but notice down in the right hand, U.S. Army, ethos. So mainly pathos, 80% I'd say if I had to rate it, but 20% there's a little ethos there. Does that make sense? See that? Pathos, logos, or ethos?
Pathos.
Pathos. And what emotions are we hit with?
Guilt.
Okay. Guilt and horror. If you're a parent looking at that, you're like, no, right? In last class, someone said, I think it's a little funny too. It kind of is a little absurd, right? So there's a little bit of humor there. But what else might it be in addition to pathos? Just a little bit or a couple of
Logos.
Logos. Like smoking, eating meat increases the risk of heart disease and cancer. So a fact, a figure, data, right? And just a little bit ethos. Down in the bottom, it says PETA. So it's appealing to that organization, right? So this is a mix, but mainly pathos. What hits you in the face is that big cigar, that little boy with the cigar, right? Good. Do you see how this is a good mix of things? It's a good mix of two emotions with the pathos. It's got a good dash of logos and just a little touch of ethos. So this one works pretty well. This one's a little more complex. Take a look at it. What do you think?
Is it logos?
Okay, it's definitely logos because the car is red. So red captures your eyes here. The ground's a little bit red, but the 21,900 is red, and the 20 cc 16 volts is red. So it's saying data, this is low price, data, this is a powerful engine, right? But I would say it's also pathos because the big, bold red car actually looks kind of cool. And it's here out in the desert, meaning you can go off road and you can have a grand adventure, treasure hunting or whatever. So there's pathos, but the pathos red is connected to the red in the logos. And then look out over here to the far bottom left, also in red, made in Japan, ethos.
A little bit Kairos because it's 2018.
Yeah, excellent. Brilliant. Yes, you better get this one now. You know, it's 2018. Excellent analysis. And all of those are in red. Because cars made in Japan are thought of as superior cars by some people. So this one is really good and it has lots of complexity to it. Does that make sense?
Ethos?
Ethos. So it's just saying, Jennifer Aniston drinks smart water. What's wrong with you? Right?
Pathos? And
Pathos. and
Ethos.
ethos. Excellent. So you're imagining that you're typing on on some sort of like Google or something, and when you type in "women need to," what Google or whatever supposedly comes up with is women need to be put in their place, women need to know their place, women need to be controlled, women need to be disciplined. So what it's saying is that society has these preset ideas of what should happen to women. But in very little letters, it says women need to be seen as equal. UN women. So our emotions are, it's kind of complicated, but basically it is anger that she is being oppressed. It appeals to our sense of justice. It appeals to our sense of fighting against a corrupt and evil system, of revolt, of wanting to change, right? And then the little bit of ethos is UN, women. This one works really well. Notice it's over her mouth. She's silenced by society. Does that make sense? Okay, well, enough of that stuff. I can show you some more, but I don't want to. Instead, I want to show you how these really are. If I were to type pathos ads, I want to show you what comes up. This is how they train advertisers. They are consciously thinking in terms of pathos, logos, and ethos. Every ad is designed by someone who thinks in these terms. And there's dozens of these on the interwebs, giving examples. And these, of course, are commercial ads that you can click on. But we're looking at print ads. And you could just go on and on. I mean, they all are very conscious of this pathos, logos, and ethos. So this is not something I'm making up. These are people all using their superpower rings on you. Okay, so let's take a look. Dang it. I have things pop up and it prevents me from actually showing you things. So let's take a look at our course site. So this is our course site, and you click on the zero dailies. Here we have 4.2, putting on a persona. You're going to write your 2 paragraphs and upload it there. Remember, you're going to pick one of these 5. Pardon me, 2 of these 5. And then here is your 4.3 ads. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to get in groups, and we're going to take a little while to discuss which of these might be most interesting for us. We may say, I don't know which one. Well, this one might be fun because, well, if I were to pick that one, how would I go about it? Well, what you could do is see, and so we've already done the readings for next time. Now you can start brainstorming with one another on how to do this assignment. And then we have so much time. We got 15 minutes. Once your group is done looking at that, you can go to this one and you can jump online and start looking at ads. You can just type in print ads And there should be example after example after example of print ads. And you can say, well, what about this one? I may pick this one. And you can help each other brainstorm. Questions or comments? So really, we're kind of already done the readings for next time, and we're helping each other get a start on the 2 exercises for next time, which we will upload here in D2L. Questions or comments about what we're doing now?